should be. An antivirus program used by hundreds of millions of people around the world is selling highly sensitive web browsing data to many of the world's biggest companies. Every search, every click, every buy on every site. Now, the report by Vice obtained leaked user data, contracts, and other company documents showing that the sale of this data is both highly sensitive and in many cases it's supposed to remain confidential between the company and the client buying it. And some of those clients are pretty well known: the Home Depot, Google, Microsoft, and Pepsi. Well, to talk more about this, joining me now, we have investigative journalist Ben Swann. Ben, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me today. So, break down again kind of what this report found and what more that you can add.
Yeah, so essentially what the report found was that antivirus / search engine called Avast was essentially taking user data on, as you said, over 100 million people, compiling all this data and doing it down to a granular level, to the point where they knew exactly what websites people would browse, how often they're browsing, you know, the pattern they would use in which they were browsing. It was compiling data based on those search habits, approximating someone's age and their income. It was tracking every single thing, including, you know, people's activity on porn sites, that could actually go down to which video and which searches they were looking for. Right, compiling all this information, then taking all that information and turning around and selling it through a separate subsidiary called Jackpot, and using that to sell it to major corporations, as you mentioned, like Home Depot and Pepsi. And so when they're selling this, essentially what they're doing is saying you can compile these massive lists of consumer habits, what consumers are looking for, what consumers want. The problem is that many of the people who have this antivirus software were not opting in, at least not consciously opting in, didn't realize that they were opting into this. So they didn't know that their information and their data was being taken, cataloged, and then sold.
Now, this isn't the first time that we've heard something like this.
Right.
I mean, Facebook was the catalyst that kind of opened up Pandora's box when it comes to this.
Yes.
But are we in an age now, do you think, Ben, where no matter what, we just have to assume that our data is going to be sold to somebody, or our data's out there and people will be able to see it?
Yeah, to some extent I think we do, because this is what internet businesses are, right? So when an antivirus company comes along and says, we are an antivirus company, they're actually not an antivirus company. They're a data collection and then profiteering company. That's what so many of these companies are. Now, in this case, for instance, the antivirus company was free. So you go online and you say, I want to get software that's free. Anybody who's selling you, well, not selling you, but giving you anything for free online is actually collecting your data. And some places that are charging you are also collecting your data. But that is the value of what's online. It's all data collection. So remember, I remind people all the time, when it comes to online, you are the product. You are the thing that's being bought and sold every time that you get online. So you just need to be aware of that when you're online.
And, you know, they had, the company said that much of the data that they were taking, that people were remaining anonymous, that, you know, names and stuff like that weren't really being shown.
Which is true.
Yeah, but they said they were looking more at the numbers. But is that really believable? I mean, what is the bigger danger here,
well,
too?
the reality is, as an individual, so that they are correct when they say, you know, it wouldn't have your name beside it. However, anybody really who was really digging into this data could track the IP address and then ultimately match that IP address with a user. So it's never a, you know, you're completely anonymous, we're just looking at your habits. That's not accurate. You can get deeper into it than that. On the other hand, no, it's not a, you know, Faran was doing this at this time. It's not going to be that obvious and that clear. But I think the bigger question is, when we look at internet, is how much are we being manipulated by these Fortune 500 companies that are buying this data? Essentially, they're trying to buy the data for what purpose? What is the value to them? Well, the value to them is to say, we want to know how people react, how people behave. And so a lot of it starts to become, at a certain point, social engineering, where everything you're seeing online isn't authentic or organic, it's being contrived based upon what data says people are doing. And therefore, it becomes almost a self-feeding loop.
But playing devil's advocate here, isn't that the purpose of business? Is they want to, you know, help their customers and bring, you know, what the customers want to them? Yeah. Isn't this kind of helping that?
So the positive of it would be, yes, a company could come along and say, look, we're just trying to be the best that we can be and give people what they want. Great. If you do that, then let the customer know that that's what you're doing. When you're shopping or you're browsing online or you're whatever you're doing, you should have the right to, the authority to opt in or opt out. And what's instead happening is it's like a company says, I want to know what your habits are, so I'm peeking through your window and I'm watching everything you do inside your house, and you don't know I'm there. I'm just monitoring you because I really want to help you. Well, I think I'd turn around and say, I'm going to close the window and I don't need that help that bad. And that's what it comes down to, opt in or opt out.
Yep, all about transparency. Ben Swann, thanks so much. We'll see you on Boom Bust later today.
Faran, thanks.